Hey, brother. Whatever it takes. No mames, cabrón.
CKS?
That is what it is. Yeah.
You got a chair over here?
You thought
right
thought I didn't know.
I just learned that 2 nights ago.
Is
My
it
wife said,
CKS?
yeah, my wife said, you say socks and better.
So CPS, yeah, that's what it is. All right, and you can't say no mames cabrón in the live broadcast.
So you guys, I know is her granddaughter. Is this a Kansas project or is this a national project?
So,
The historic light.
so this is his project from Kansas. That's national.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks like I have things up there too.
It sounds like it.
Oh, we're opening.
It's
I would love it.
All the mics are off, but it's still picking.
Oh, good.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
Do we need these?
you guys shouldn't have to. I'm going to use it for the opening at least.
What's your autograph?
It's not worth anything.
You know, you're responsible for whatever we say.
You know, you could do better. Right? You could do better.
You're responsible for anything we say.
Not personally, but with your guests, you could do better. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Historic Light, where we talk about stuff historically. store. Can we tell them about my grandpa? Hunting bears. Oh, grandpa hunt bears one time. Oh.
Good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Historical Light. We're broadcasting live from the Grand Lodge of Kansas annual communication. Have some epic guests with me here this evening, and we're going to talk about some interesting things. So hang in there because we have a great episode lined up for you right after this on Historical Light.
Welcome back to the Historical Light Masonic Podcast, dedicated to illuminate our past and bring our Masonic history to light since 2016. And now, enjoy the show.
Good evening. Welcome back to Historical Light, another episode. And we're doing this one live from the Grand Lodge of Kansas annual communication.
Never a good idea.
Never a good idea, but we're doing it. And we actually have toasts not at the end of the show.
Whatever you want to do.
Hey,
it's your
man,
show.
Well, you brought a whole bottle.
I did.
So
I brought a whole bottle. This is Powers whiskey. Powers whiskey, right? This is John's Lane edition of Powers whiskey, Irish whiskey. It's good. It's good. And being the Powers tie-in, we had to do it. So I had to bring this to you.
Good.
Yeah. It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal. It's
It
Powers.
is. It
Irish
is.
name. Yeah. So Powers is actually the oldest distillery in Scotland still functioning.
I've heard this.
Yes.
And, you know, they have a, so it started off as Power. I find out because I have the name tattooed on the back of my neck, Powers.
Oh yeah.
Well, so the name from Ireland was Power. And my family,
That's
up until.
because I have that across my chest. Powers.
Do you?
Yeah, with a little heart.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's more than
like
one
it.
of you, so it's Powers.
apparently.
Okay.
Because my family came through Kentucky, and between census reports, it went from Power to Powers.
Because there were more than one.
I'm assuming.
That's not usually because of census reports. It's usually because of restaurants. I mean,
Oh.
I would-
History matters.
History
So-
does
so-
matter.
The Powers
So-
family I know may have some history
Are you
there.
related to Austin?
Yeah, Austin.
Directly.
Get in my belly.
That's not.
Now, those of you tuning in remotely, you'll have to tell me we're having some odd issues with the audio on this end. We're not at my home
Yeah,
studio.
I didn't say anything.
So,
No.
yeah, when the mics were off, it was showing words on here. So you'll just have to let us know if you can hear us and if there's anything going. We got thumbs up coming through, so I'm assuming we can. But guys, so we wrapped up a business meeting for the Grand Lodge Annual Communications today, and it's kind of another historic point. We've handled some business. We've made it through a year. I want to get some of your thoughts on where we're at, in your opinion, as a Grand Lodge, and kind of your hopes or where you think we're headed, in a good direction or what?
So one of the exciting things to see is that for years we have talked about the membership decline.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is one of the first years where we began to see, and we've talked about forever, that membership decline was going to bottom out and then begin to resurge. This is the first occurrence when we look at stats that shows that we probably hit that point and they're beginning to come back up.
At least flatline.
Yes.
Interesting.
And provided that we're coming back up with the right men of the right character, it's going to be an amazing thing. And so for me, the exciting thing this year is to see that data, to see that we're starting to maybe trend back upwards.
Right.
But forgive me for anyone who I offend with this statement, to come back up with the right type of characters that I'm seeking.
Yeah.
We're going to come up stronger. To be here in the year that we start to see that trend change, that to me was one of the most exciting. The bylaw proposals that went on this afternoon
We're lengthy.
predictably
Yeah.
the most boring part of the session. When you looked at the topics that were discussed, they're all designed to strengthen that spring.
Yeah.
And so you know, the nerdy folks that don't want any part of that.
Deputy Grand Master of Kansas is passing out ties. That is the Grand Master tomorrow.
Well,
So-
we're just trying to get, so some don't have to get up with it.
So
Well, that's good. Yeah.
what is the official term there? Is that almost most worshipful?
Well, yeah.
Almost.
And if he's going into a position where he'd be right,
I would have loved that.
if he was going from worshipful to right, that's not quite right
Thank you so
worshipful.
much.
But you're past that, so that's good.
This is how you know he's almost there because he just walked in.
Thank you, most worshipful.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how you know he's about ready to be. The
Yeah, Grandmasters are like that. They do whatever they want, and it's to be expected. So he needs to come on this side of the camera, though.
Welcome, Doug Wilkinson.
Doug Wilkinson, Grandmaster elect,
Step over here.
Grandmaster elect of Kansas. He'll be installed our Grandmaster tomorrow, and I look
And
for
I just
great things.
crashed the party.
I look for great things. You will do a phenomenal job,
Yeah.
and if you don't, we're
Just
going to call you out next year on this live
That's right.
broadcast.
And we're gonna continue some
So-
really good stuff.
Yep, we are. We are.
That's right. Some
Right,
stuff that's
yeah.
already in progress.
There's some paradigm shifts that happened that have really taken hold, and I appreciate
It's
that.
very good.
Yeah.
That's what we were just bringing up was that
Yeah.
we're beginning to see that shift. We're talking about real issues, not facial stuff in our business.
It's
Right.
measurable.
Yeah,
It's
it absolutely-
measurable and that's
it
what
is.
counts.
It is. Yeah.
That's what we're excited.
When you actually pull the real data and look at the real data, things change.
It's
Yeah.
measurable.
So yeah,
It's not worth having if you can't measure.
that's right.
100%.
Anyway, again, I apologize.
No, no,
Christ, most
We,
worshipful.
we appreciate you, sir.
You're about to be
Yeah. Congratulations tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Oh, man.
I appreciate you stopping in. So, most worshipful Cole, if you could aim the mic towards you, we got one saying they're not able to hear you crazy well. We do have mic levels coming up, so let us know if that gets any better on your end. But you know, that's the wonderful thing about these annual communications and being here, because when we look back in Masonic history, this is primarily where you look, right? Those annual proceedings and kind of seeing what was going on year to year in the jurisdiction. Here we get to see that firsthand and really kind of be a part of, especially with the voting, being a part of setting the tone for the path moving forward. So it's an exciting time for me to be able to talk about this in real time, because, you know, as we're doing like past Grandmaster videos here today, this is the stuff that we can't go back and see.
Right.
We see those short written out scripts, but we don't get the personal opinions. We don't get the between the lines opinions. So that's just the epic part of being able to, you know, capture history in a modern way.
No, I fully agree.
He talks a lot.
I love it.
The ability to go back and look at annual proceedings from years back and see that they were doing similar things. What I think about is that in 30, 40, 50 years from now, people are going to look at what we were dealing with and see that their problems aren't as big.
Or as
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it'll be the same problems actually. And I think it's very interesting that we started looking at not how many people we could bring in specifically, but how can we keep the people that we do bring in? And that was a huge paradigm shift that happened. And we're seeing the results of that because in 2010, we set a strategic plan for the Grand Lodge of Kansas.
Yeah.
And I don't think the brothers understood exactly what the results of that were going to be. But going back and looking at the data, we went from retention rates during the first 5 years of less than 30% at times to where we're now well over 75% retention rate within the first 5 years. And it's because we focused on the experience at the lodge level.
Yeah.
If your lodge is boring and you're not doing anything at the lodge level, why are people staying?
Yeah.
Well, they weren't.
Sure.
They were leaving. It was a revolving door.
Well, Grand Lodge matters for nothing when it comes to the Masonic experience. It's either the local lodge or it's nothing. And if the local lodge isn't doing it,
Absolutely.
they're not
Yeah.
going to keep the
Grand Lodge doesn't make and keep Masons.
No.
Everyone listened to what was just
Not
said.
yet.
It is the local lodge experience. At Grand Lodge cannot produce that.
No.
No.
It's not the Grand Lodge's responsibility to
We can
produce that.
help. We can provide
Yes,
programs.
You can guide
and
but it's
structure
not
and-
their
yeah.
responsibility to produce that.
And I caught a lot of flack because when I was Grandmaster, I'd go to the local lodges and I'd sit as Brother Mike. And when they'd ask me to speak, the first thing I do was go to the altar and I'd say, I'm going to give you some answers that you don't like.
Mhm.
Because when you come to me and you say, what's Grand Lodge doing about membership? I'm going to tell you nothing. Grand Lodge is not doing anything about membership.
Yeah.
And they're looking at me like, you're crazy. And I'm like, Grand Lodge doesn't make Masons.
Yeah.
And look at the Grandmasters before your term. What we talked about, we're declining, and we didn't talk about how we were going to slow the. We talked about how to prepare for the bottom.
Yes.
So it was knowing what was coming. And now as we begin to rebuild, these will be the points that Alex, I think, do everything you can to preserve these moments, because years later, when we're back to what we were before, they'll look at how did you get there.
Yeah.
This is and that sounds pompous, but it's exactly
One of the hows, though,
Mhm.
and I will say this to you, Alex,
Yeah.
as someone who's never held Grand Lodge.
Thank
Okay.
God.
Absolutely. Who would want that? It
Won't-
is-
nobody wants
nobody
that.
wants that is that you have to have the right team working at Grand Lodge to make that happen.
Yeah.
You have to have the people who have the desire, who have the energy, who have the focus to turn that around.
Right.
My wife and I had this conversation this afternoon.
Hi, Nikki.
She had asked me, because I was 37 when I was grandmother, second
Sure.
youngest, and she asked me, "Do you think you went on the line too early?" But it goes back to the team. I was told I could wait when the offer was made, but the decision factor was I wanted to be on that team at that moment. It wasn't
Yeah.
about when I win. I didn't care. It was I wanted to be on that team.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's very similar for me, because even prior to having any inkling of, or anybody had any inkling that I might become Grand Master someday, I actually got to be part of the strategic planning committee
Yes.
Sure.
for the Grand Lodge of Kansas in 2012.
Yes.
I was nobody.
No.
I
talk a lot, but you-
I can agree.
I always talk a lot, and I'm still nobody.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was nobody. And I'm just Joe Blow from Podunk, Kansas, that they said, "Hey, come tell us what the Grand Lodge of Kansas is supposed to be doing."
Right.
And they listened. And the ideas that were produced by this cross-functional group of Kansas Masons, older Masons, younger Masons, new Masons, old Masons, past masters, never held an office.
Yeah.
From rural, suburban, it was a cross section of Kansas Masonry.
Sure.
And we sat down and said, this is what the Grand Lodge of Kansas is supposed to do to help Masons and Masonry and the lodges in Kansas. And they ran with it.
Yeah.
I mean, Rick Reichert, who I didn't know from Adam, Cole was there, right? And I'd never met these people before. And we're sitting on this panel and we're discussing what is the strategic plan of Grand Lodge. I didn't even know what Grand Lodge was. But I'm like, if there is an over governing body for lodges, this is what it means to be that body.
Yeah.
And they took every one of our examples and opinions, and that's what they lived by. And I'm like, if these people are the leaders of this organization,
God help us.
I can continue in this organization. I can be part of this organization. And when I got the chance to be part of that leadership team, I'm like, absolutely, because this is a leadership team I believe in. I understand what they're doing. They listen to what the Kansas Masons tell them they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
It's not the Grand Master, Deputy Grand Master, and a couple other past potentates or whoever that decide what Grand Lodge is. It's the rank and file members of the Grand Lodge of Kansas that tell the Grand Lodge, this is what Grand Lodge is supposed to do. And we've
Definitely.
lived by that, and we still do.
Because who works for who? The Grand
Well,
Lodge works for the craft.
Absolutely.
The craft doesn't work for Grand Lodge.
Absolutely.
And one of the other measurements is, other than Alex Powers, who could tell us without looking who was Grandmaster 35 years ago?
Alex, but that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody else knows and or cares.
Right.
So it's
I think it was Robinette.
probably.
Yeah. He was here today.
And we interviewed him today,
It was good to see him.
yesterday.
Yeah, Don. Yeah.
But nobody cares about. Nobody cares about what
Don
he
does.
Real quick, if you don't mind, let's move Craddock's mic down to you, and we'll put this one in the middle. For some reason, I think it's a mic issue on that one. They say it's coming through a little muffled, so they should be able to pick up.
Oh.
Power's down.
So what I
Powers
heard
down.
was, it's more important to see Cole than Craft.
But while we're working through that,
Somebody spilled the blue.
This is a technical setup. It doesn't matter because this mic is. Someone needs to follow.
So while we're working through that, I know we've done episodes in the past where we've talked about the strategic plan of Kansas.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was kind of very hopeful for me. I recently got the opportunity to go up to the Conference of Grand Masters in Seattle, and it was kind of a common tune that I heard a lot of people talking about the strategic plan that Kansas has. Literally saw people taking notes about it, and just heard a lot of people talking about that. I know it plays a powerful role in here. I want to get your guys' opinions. Well, Craddock too, because you've been coming around Kansas for a long time. If this strategic plan is something that we would have never put in place, where do you think we would be at today? Because obviously we already got our downfalls that we have to deal with, membership issues and this and that. But if that strategic plan was never put into place and we were simply going Grandmaster to Grandmaster throughout that time, where do you think we would be at today?
So I have to be careful with this answer because I don't want any Grandmaster to feel like I'm bagging on them because I'm not. If we hadn't built a strategic plan that was designed to create long-term change instead of develop plans, don't tell anyone, and then launch it on the day of install, if that was still going on in 2024, we would not be losing. There would not be 300 Masons. There would be maybe 100 in a lodge room somewhere else. Finances wouldn't be what they were. The momentum that's been created would not be what it was. People wouldn't know that the Grand Lodge of Kansas existed.
Yeah.
It was at that moment years back when it was the my year philosophy.
Yeah,
had
the
to
mentality
go away.
of
And
my
again,
year.
I'm not bagging on those guys. It was the philosophy of the day. But had we not gotten rid of it and looked at it and changed it to the things that I'm going to do, measure for 6 years or 7.
Sure.
We wouldn't be saying.
No,
Well,
I give a whole presentation on this exact topic, and there's a lot of jurisdictions that are still in the path of my year mentality.
Absolutely.
Where when you become Grand Master, you implement programs because you want them to be your programs so you can shine. That doesn't happen in Kansas because we don't have my year mentality. There is no my year. It was the year I got to serve as Grand Master, and quite frankly, at that point, I was done because all the ideas I had of what could help Grand Lodge, help Kansas Masonry, we had already implemented if they were aligned with the strategic plan because I didn't wait. There's no reason for me to wait until I become Grand Master to implement a program just because I want it to be mine. Because that you waste resources that way.
The philosophy has to become, as Grand Master, how can I help the rest of our council develop their ideas into something actionable? Not how can I make the biggest market I possibly can.
Absolutely.
Can I?
Of course you can.
I want
Go.
to develop that a little bit more. It's not, and I'm sorry, and I am the outsider. I'm the guy who will never be a member of Grand Lodge office, thankfully. Who
He doesn't want to.
who gets to watch. And one of the things that I have loved most about the Grand Lodge of Kansas and their Council of Administration, the elected Grand Lodge, is it's not the how can I as Grand Master help this. It is all those men that are coming up saying, how can we do this?
Yeah.
It is not an my year. It is the what are we going to do moving forward for the craft in Kansas
Within the strategic plan.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Within that strategic plan. So it's not any of this. Well, in my year, we're going to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
It is a collective. So
Right.
I love that it's not. It's all about me this year.
Right.
And I think that is from a simpleton on the craft level.
Yeah.
That's the best thing that I can see.
100.
Is it's not the
I-
individual.
100%. Oh, I knew Alex was here.
It's
100.
It's not the individual. who is
And
looking-
98.5.
looking for that star to shine on his year. It's everyone working together to
Yes.
produce that long range plan.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's still the ability to memorialize that year in
To
the
celebrate that year.
There is. You know, I mean, we just saw it a minute ago with the, I was receiving the incoming Grandmaster's new tie. There's still
Yeah.
a way to personalize that. It's a different color tie than what I've got on right now, but the plan didn't change.
No.
Right.
The
Right.
paint colors did, but the plan didn't change.
You keep doing that, you have to come on this side of the camera.
I'm used to it. Just gotta get in the way. But that's what makes it nice.
Yeah.
And so, when I look at what it is that you do in terms of the current analysis versus the past history,
Yeah.
my hope is that 50 years from now, people look at what you are broadcasting and go, okay, this worked.
And I'm gonna,
I
I'm
hope
gonna
they
put
look
a
at it
point on
sooner
that.
than that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put a point on that, and because it's one of the things that I rail against, Cole, is when you say,
You really against Paul?
no, I don't really.
Oh.
It's
Yeah, us either.
it's when you say you look at the things from 50 years ago.
Yeah.
How many Masons? How often do you hear? Well, we've never done it.
Oh, God.
Or
We've always done it that way. That's even better. For 1,000 years in Kansas Masonry.
Jesus, that's a story for a whole nother episode. But it's when you hear this is the way we've always done it. What you should be hearing is this is all I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not the way.
It's within the
we've
living
ever
memory
done
of the
it.
Masons.
It's the living memory
Yes.
of the Masons who participate.
Definitely.
And when you realize that, wait a minute, my perspective is just minuscule compared to the history of the Grand Lodge of Kansas.
For sure.
We don't have to keep doing it this way.
For sure.
We can do things differently, and we should do things differently if it's benefiting us. If it's
Yeah.
not benefiting us, we don't have to keep doing it that way.
And I think that's key, right? Because we can't totally trash the way it's always been done, right? Because they essentially got us to this point. But the beautiful thing about it is we have so much Masonic history. They weren't able to do this back in the day. Now we re-examine, we say, okay, we have a better way to do this now. We've thought through this process. So yes, if we went Grandmaster to Grandmaster, could we still be alive? Yes. Would our path be different? Yes. But we, at a certain point, came together with the minds and the experience that we've gained throughout the history of the jurisdiction and said, let's try something. And it's worked. But if it didn't, we would try something else.
Exactly. And we have, because
Yeah.
the strategic plan is constantly evolving.
It's a living, breathing thing.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
sure.
part of the original strategic plan was that we needed to make our Grand Lodge building in Topeka a mecca for Kansas Masonry. That became very apparent that wasn't feasible.
Yeah.
And we no longer have a Grand Lodge building in Topeka because it didn't meet the strategic plan of what a Grand Lodge was supposed to do, and it would become an albatross. And we had to divest ourselves of a beautiful building, which I hated to see go. I personally was going to contribute a lot of money to try to keep it, but it didn't meet the strategic plan once that strategic plan evolved.
But look
Yeah.
at what happened when we did.
Oh, yeah.
I was heartbroken. I was the Grand Master pleading with
Yes.
others to-
Oh, I know. I set up the capital plan for you.
Yes. But look what happened when we got from underneath. We became agile.
Absolutely.
And I guess another way to look at it is how many of us as fathers have ever raised children and hoped they lived a life exactly the same person?
Mm.
Most of us hope
For
they
better.
live a life better.
Better.
than
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that means we've got to push them. We've got to, teach them how to be creative, how to take risks, accept challenges, etc. We have to do the same thing as a friend.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
Kansas Masonry to look like this. And
Right. Right.
Look like
We want it to be amazing in our time, but also a stepping stone.
So this idea of the way we've always done it, and the looking then at this, at the broad range of history, the building, the Grand Lodge building, most grand jurisdictions have been blessed to have this grandiose Grand Lodge building, right?
Yeah.
But if you look, the pendulum of time swings. It never goes in one direction.
That's true.
Constantly. It stops, and we're seeing that right now with the plateauing of membership, and it will start swinging back. But the Grand Lodge building, when the Grand Lodge of Kansas was organized and began as the Grand Lodge, what did it have for a Grand Lodge building? It didn't have a Grand Lodge building
No.
because that wasn't important to them at that
Right.
time.
Right.
It was the craft. And then we grew that, and we had the ability and the means and to produce this beautiful building,
Yeah.
which that pendulum started to swing backwards.
Well,
So it's the importance of the craft.
Yeah.
That is the focus.
you're making, and to that point, because you're making me think, as we're sitting here speaking about just that, even when Kansas came around and developed the building that we all know of in Topeka, it really wasn't built for that reason, though, right? Like,
No.
so we started out and we found out there's been a couple other locations, but we started out with rented office spaces. Leavenworth, we know KCK at one point, in Topeka at the real estate building before they built that. But before they built that building that's there now, it was a Victorian house.
It was.
And,
It was.
and they met there and they built on the back. And the plan was for it to primarily be a location to house a library and a museum. When they built the current building that stands there, it was never built to be this, Grand Lodge that we meet in. And
No.
It was an office space.
Yeah,
It had the library museum,
yeah,
and it
office
was all the
library
appendant
space.
bodies, right? Like it,
Yeah.
it was an office space for work. And then there was another lodge temple or Masonic temple in Topeka that really just kind of blew that building away. It was way bigger. And so that kind of puts
Only
that,
like 4 blocks away. It wasn't
Right.
very far.
so it really kind of puts that highlight back on the lodge. Say, well, this is administrative,
Yes.
but you guys are where the work's at.
Yeah,
Agreed. It was built as a governance structure.
Right.
We don't need it.
It's amazing to see, how that time shifts, how the focus shifts, but also to kind of think, well, okay, 20 years in the future, where's Kansas Freemasonry going to be from this point? What is this? What do you got?
Well, we're having Irish whiskey, right?
Okay,
We have to have crisps.
Irish.
got to have
Irish
crisp.
crisps, yes.
Sorry. I better have to know what's inside that bag that she's.
No,
Now-
please. Will you
I have
please,
O'Donnell's
show us what is
Crisps
inside the bag?
from Tipperary, mature cheese and red onion.
Did you learn about this from Smokies? Because I was told I was supposed
What's
to
in
ask
that?
you about Smokies.
Smokies are Scottish.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm told I'm supposed to ask. You
So
told me I was
these
supposed to ask him about Smokies. You better come around here and get on
So
the
these are
mic too.
crisps,
Have some.
which you have to have with your Irish whiskey.
Okay.
And here's to good friends
That's supposed to be an E.
and good brothers.
We are.
I'll do have one.
We need another cup.
Oh, it's right here. To the top?
2 fingers. 2 fingers.
What it say?
All right.
Can you pan towards me just slightly?
Here's to good friends and good brothers.
Right
Well,
there.
is this an Irish toast?
No, it's just a good
Right,
friends and good
here's
brothers.
a Scottish toast.
Okay, Scottish toast.
Here's to us, boys like us, no money, and they're all dead.
Oh, are you getting in?
Slancha.
Yachida.
All right.
Slancheva.
Cheers.
Was it time for the toast?
No, no.
No,
We're just having random toasts.
I think. Well, it's kind of like
Chris?
when we do our
don't mind if I
our
do.
Grand Lodge festive boards. There's usually a few practice toasts, right? We got to learn the work
Well,
first.
it's kind of like the
Well-
master's lunch too. We just kind of got learned.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Smokies.
anyway, I've been listening to you.
Give me a glass, they called it up.
No, they're not.
Okay. Because when you grab that chip, it was.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, this is the first time in this podcast that 2 Scottish Masons have actually sat in this podcast
That is
at
true.
the same time.
Aye, so it is.
From the same lodge, Lodge and Bride 579.
What about a recently Scottish Mason? I mean, I'm not a member of a Scottish lodge, but
No.
I'm
No.
Scottish.
If you saw what that 579
We're not supposed to
wore
talk about
yesterday,
that.
You wouldn't claim it as a 579. If you saw his outfit yesterday, you wouldn't be.
My outfit yesterday was amazing.
You should have gone to the airport.
Oh, well.
Anyway, tell them about Smokies.
Smokies are amazing. Yeah, bro. Right?
I mean, there's a million
Yeah.
people listening to this. They don't know
So,
what
so it's
Smoky is.
I just had a smoky
is it
outside.
mackerel?
No, it's haddock.
Haddock. It's a hickory
even know
smoked
what it is.
haddock.
No, it's oak.
I read it. It said hickory.
No, and I
James,
brought-
don't you talk about
Uh,
Smokies?
why don't
since
you
know
tell me
what
about-
they're talking about?
They're amazing. That's all I know. I ate them. It was great.
And
So
they're
off
both-
we go.
and our broth is
They're going to kick me out of my Scottish lodge now.
and our broth they're smoked in oak chips, oak wood.
Right on. Right on.
They're amazing. They're no colon skink, though.
No,
No.
well you've
Small
had
lizards?
Small lizards.
you've
yes,
had you've
from
had yeah,
colon. Small lizards named Colin.
you've had haddock,
Well,
you've had skink, you've had haggis, and you've now had smokies.
Yeah.
So that's you been round the block.
It has, yes.
There's no
yes.
point in getting back to
Was it a
Scotland, really,
lowland
is it?
haggis or a highland haggis? I don't remember.
Well, don't know.
What's the limit on hunting haggis anyway?
2.
Oh,
Yeah, and you can't hunt the lowland ones anymore because they're
Endangered?
Endangered.
Oh.
The lowland ones are very endangered.
That's
Most
gonna be
most of
struck up
the
to
lowland
1.25
haggis have been killed,
ranges.
so
What's the difference
they're very
between
endangered.
Scotland
And most of the
Kansas?
highland
We talked
haggis are
about
only the
Kansas and how it's evolved.
right-footed. They're
We
the
were
clockwise
colonists.
haggis.
When you're in
Oh, really?
Scotland,
Yeah, because they run around the hills.
You're out and about,
Yeah,
they
they
go
run
around
around the
the
hills. So there's the
That
left-footed and the
sounds
right-footed
Huh.
because the legs on one side are shorter than the other. That way they can go around the hill easier.
who knew?
Yeah.
So Stoops,
Yes.
I'm getting prompted over here that we should probably have you tell us the differences between Kansas and Scottish as far as Freemasonry goes.
Oh,
Ah.
geez. So I got in trouble today because I've been going to Scottish lodges more than I've been going to the Kansas
Kansas?
lodges.
Right.
Why
And
is
so
So you
when we-
picking favorites?
no, that's where
Oh,
I've been
okay,
going.
okay.
I'm a little closer. I live in Dublin, Ireland now, so I've been a little closer to the Scottish lodges, so I
So
go there
guys-
more often. Right?
That's the guy that
So,
taught our brothers in
um,
Ireland.
I did not. That's a whole different story. Anyway, so we were opening, and certain things that we do in Scotland are different than we do in Kansas, and I found myself doing the Scottish things instead of the Kansas things, and somebody looked at me, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did that wrong."
So
That's good.
Yeah.
in his defense, though, here's what's important is for all the work we do to memorize our ritual here in Kansas and it gets ingrained to who we are.
Yeah.
Michael was invited to be a part
I love
of
crisps.
Jim's installation ceremony this last November, and I got to witness it. And Michael put a lot of time into making sure that his portion was right, and he did. He knocked it out of the park. I don't remember that Jim got to see that. I don't think he
No,
got to
Jim
come
was
in.
outside.
He didn't get to come in yet, but I remember Michael being very nervous about I can't mess this up. So we got to watch Jim installed as the Grand Senior Deacon of the Grand Lodge of Scotland, and then 3 days later got to watch him installed as master for the second time in Chisholm Lodge and
That's
For the
cool.
centenary of his lodge.
for the centenary.
And-
Oh,
and
no,
my lodge.
Yeah.
It's the centenary of the hall.
Yeah.
Of the hall, sorry, of the hall. Yeah.
But it was really neat to see a born Kansas Mason studying like crazy to honor the Scottish. And
That's
Kansas
beautiful.
Masons.
If the brethren out there are listening, to put it into reality, it was only 2 lines.
Let me interpret. That was only 2 lines.
But it's kind of cool to see because especially since you've been traveling to Kansas and you guys have traveled over to Scotland, I and maybe it's just in my opinion, but I've started to see this cool bond between random Kansas and Scottish Masonry
Yes,
that I think is pretty neat. I think
Well,
we even have a
listen.
past Grandmaster on a wall in a
we
A
do.
pub.
In a
Yeah,
pub.
no.
That's right.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Chimneys pub.
Cole's pictures up on the wall in the chimneys.
That's right.
I'll go back and look at my Facebook post, and I'll bring that back up again.
Yeah.
'cause that's-
Is it-
it's an amazing example of how
We have-
James,
Kansas.
Jack, Michael Stoops, and myself were pointing to the portrait
We were,
of
that's right.
the Grand Master
Yeah.
on the wall.
Yes.
In the
In our
Chimneys
lodge, we have a portrait of a Kansas Mason in our committee room.
Yes, and I told them to put it down in the crawl space to keep the rodents out, but they hung it in the committee room instead. So
we'll
Well,
make sure to get that
segue.
picture in the comments.
Kansas, the Grand Lodge of Kansas is very high up the league table in the Grand Lodge of Scotland. Very high up the league table.
Wow.
In fact, when the Grandmaster Mason, Joe Morrow, who's the Lord Lion of Scotland, at our last meeting there, found out that was coming over to Kansas, said that he wanted to be kept informed of what happened in Kansas. So
Wow.
I will tell him that you were eating Irish.
Oh.
You were eating Irish.
In that, in that
Yeah,
list,
I have scotch in my room, though, so it's okay.
So that-
Yeah.
in
It
that
evens us
list
out.
of Grand Lodges, Kansas, in the Grand Lodge of Scotland, Kansas is right above
Kansas-
UGLE, right?
Kansas is
Yeah.
well up.
Well,
Kansas-
basically
Kansas is well up.
everything in Scotland's above UG.
Oh, well, fair enough. Yeah.
Kansas is well up there. If you say to a Scottish Mason about the Grand Lodge of Kansas, they'll probably say, "Oh, we know these guys. These
Yeah.
guys have been here and they've been in amongst us."
Yeah.
Talking about
Chair
in
number
among-
3.
Talking about that's another story. Chair number 3. That's another story. Chair number 3 for the Kansas Masons who don't know is chair number 1 is the Grandmaster Mason. Chair number 2 is the immediate past Grandmaster Mason. And chair number 3 was Michael Stoops. How he got there, goodness knows.
No.
Just sat down, did you?
No, that's where I was assigned.
All right.
I was assigned.
We'll
What
stick
is
to it.
nice though is to go over there and find brothers as down to earth as Kansas Mason.
Mm.
Absolutely.
The first time that I went, I was very, very scared that I was first Kansas Grandmaster to go.
Sure.
So in the lecture I got before I left was, don't make us look stupid. So, instantly my country ass is like, oh, this ain't gonna be okay. the second trip back, I'm a has-been. It doesn't matter what I say or do because I'm long gone a has-been and could relax. Scottish Masons and Kansas Masons, we speak differently, but our character is
You say the same thing.
Yeah.
We met the incoming Grandmaster the day of his installation. Michael and I both did. The Lord Light. This is a man who escorted the King of England into
whoa.
The King of the United Kingdom.
Whoa.
You can't even say that.
Yeah,
You can't even say that.
No.
The Scottish coronation. So this is a guy who should be very, very proud of himself. And instead, he sat down with two yuppies from Kansas.
Yuppies?
Did you see what he wore yesterday? He's a
I'm sorry. No.
Yeah. I'll get you an outfit just like mine.
I'm not gonna wear it.
Ever.
I'm not gonna wear it ever.
No, that's not okay.
Hey, I got my picture with the Easter Bunny. Did you? All right then.
I heard stories.
Our lodge are very proud of the fact that we've got a past Grand Master of Kansas as a member of our lodge in Uddingston St Bride 579. And recently, I had a new experience, and that experience was our away day. Now, this was our first away day since before COVID, and every year we plan a visit out with our province to another area.
Yeah.
And we try and arrange for our lodge to accommodate us. We have a degree. We would normally work a degree, and then we would have a meal after it, and basically just have a good time. And we went to Lodge St Thomas of Aberbrothock, number 40. Aberbrothock, and number 40. And we worked a fellowcraft degree. And Michael Stoops was the first Kansas Mason to come with us in that trip.
And what regalia did I wear that day?
You were wearing a 579 apron.
So I was.
You didn't tell them he was from Kansas.
You knew he was from Kansas.
He had to keep his mouth shut.
So
I knew he was from Kansas.
I
It
know
might be interesting to find out what he thinks of, what he thought of that experience. Has he ever experienced anything like it in either good or bad in Kansas
no.
or
Kansas?
anywhere else?
That's every day in Kansas. I mean, Smokies and Cohen skiing. That's every day.
And a bus trip full of
That's right.
Masons
There
to
was-
a lodge
there
2
was-
hours
Scott,
away.
yeah.
There was 36 of us travelled from Uddingston up to Arbroath, which is up the east coast of Scotland, and 36 went up in the deputation to the lodge. The last time we were up there was when my son was master, and that was in 2016, and there were 52 years went, but that was a different time before COVID, and we were really quite pleased that 36 made the trip. But we're delighted to take a past Grand Master of Kansas with us, and it'd be interesting to see what his thoughts were of that weekend. Normally in Lodge St Bride, when we're working on the floor, it's very serious. When we're working on the floor, it's proper.
It is.
After
well done.
after we've
Excellent
stopped
degree
working
one.
on the floor, that's a different story. So it might be worthwhile asking
Yes.
the past Grand Master of Kansas what he felt about that whole experience, including lunch in the station bar with Guinness and Arbroath Smokies.
So it was a excellent experience. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The bus trip up, I made the mistake or the proper choice. I don't know which. Depending on your view, I sat in the back of the bus, which seemed to be the rowdy section. And his two sons were back there, and there was a few drinks. It was enjoyable. lots of camaraderie. I gained a new Scottish nickname, which we can't say on the live podcast, but it was very enjoyable. You don't see things like that in most of America, where a group of almost 40 Masons get on a bus together and enjoy fellowship and drive 2.5 hours to a lodge and exemplify a degree in that other lodge, and then spend the night and just, it's great fellowship and great meals and great.
Sure.
We just don't do that here, and we should. We should.
I
We absolutely
think
should.
it's something to build on, because I mean that took a lot of planning.
Oh, absolutely.
We had a notice up in the notice board months before we actually
Right.
went. People were talking about it. Are you going to your broth? Who's doing a degree? What are we doing up
And
there?
it wasn't just 579 brothers.
No,
It
there was other
there was
guys.
at least 3 lodges.
Other visitors came
Yeah.
from other lodges, and
all on the bus together in
it
fellowship.
all mixes
Yeah.
in with that fellowship and friendship.
Yes.
And the guys are talking about this months before it actually happens. And then it happens,
Yeah.
and everybody had a good experience.
Yes.
It was a good weekend. Everything went well. The hotel was fine.
Yeah.
Bus journey was fine. The degree was good, and number 40 did us very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
And my home lodge is number 40, and when we went to
That's
number
right,
40, it
that's
was
right.
kind of nice.
Very
Well,
nice.
that
But
lodge-
what he hasn't brought up, and I think we should bring up, since this is historic light, right?
Yeah.
We should bring up the reason that was a very special trip for he and his sons, and that was Jim's father. Had his courtesy degrees, 2nd and 3rd degree, in that lodge during World War II.
That's right.
He was stationed up there,
Yeah.
and he had his courtesy degree, 2nd and 3rd, both done in that lodge.
That's right.
The Bible that they had basically archived because it was old and tattered, and they needed to preserve it, was put away.
Yeah.
The Bible that his father took his 2nd and 3rd degree on was archived at that lodge,
That's
and it was
fantastic.
an exemplification of the 2nd degree. So there wasn't a candidate
Yeah.
who was getting his 2nd degree for the first time. They were exemplifying that work of the 2nd degree.
Yeah.
The 2 candidates were his twin sons, whose grandfather had taken his 2nd
Yeah.
degree in that building.
That's cool.
And the lodge brought out the archived Bible
man.
that their grandfather
Yeah, they just
had taken his
Yeah.
obligation
Yeah.
on,
That's fantastic.
and they took their exemplified obligation on that Bible,
Provincial
conferred by.
provincial Grand Masters by nature are not supposed to be emotional,
Mm.
But since he's
That-
passed, he can be.
well, past provincial Grand Master. I really felt that night, and I think the emotion came through.
Oh, absolutely. And
I-
it should. It
and-
absolutely
and-
should.
absolutely should.
if you're going to show emotion, it's good to show it amongst friends.
Right.
And I think the fact that I was master and I was obligating in inverted commas my twin sons, which I did 21 years ago, as they entered apprentices. On the Bible that their grandfather took their obligation, all of a sudden it all just gelled into
Yeah.
a good story.
It was
a really
absolutely.
good story. So he was
Wow.
up there with the Fleet Air Arm as a Navy man. He was up there with the Royal Navy, the Fleet Air Arm, and got his degrees by courtesy. His mother lodge was St Enoch's 1288, but he was stationed up there and he was visiting number 40, and he asked if he could get his 2nd and 3rd degrees up there. The lodge number 40 needs to write to his mother lodge and ask for permission to grant him to give his degrees, and they did that.
Yeah.
And that was where he gets 2nd
Wow.
and 3rd degrees. So there we go.
Which, by the way, if you ever just need a show that's just a comedy show, you should log in via Zoom and have Andy and Stuart
Yes.
on for an hour.
I think we could make that happen.
So in Ireland, we say they're good crack.
Yeah, good crack. That's a lot of crack.
They together they are hilarious.
They're good crack, and so they are.
Well, so I'm hearing a lot, and it makes total sense to me as a Kansan to see why these brothers cherish the time and make so much effort to travel over to Scotland. Why the hell do you keep coming back to Kansas?
Well,
I'm curious.
I look at it. I look at it from the point of view that, the second one that he spoke, I look at it from the point of view that different constitutions, different Grand Lodges do things differently.
Yeah.
And that's great. If we're all the same, we all wear the same regalia, we all work the same ritual, it would become boring.
It would.
And in Scotland,
Yeah.
one of the key things in Scotland is
Yes.
that the lodges are autonomous, working under the constitution and laws of the Grand Lodge of Scotland, but they really look after their own business. They work their own ritual. Ritual varies from lodge to lodge. There's
Right,
no
yeah.
standard ritual.
Not the same ever.
There's no standard regalia. There's no standard formalities, but we're all working under the constitution and laws of the Grand Lodge of Scotland. And I think that's unique in Scotland. I don't know of it
Absolutely.
anywhere else in any other constitution. And really, when I come to other
DC a
constitutions,
little bit.
when I come to other constitutions, I see the way they do it, and I wouldn't comment on it or criticise it in any way or shape or form. But it's refreshing to see somebody doing something in a different forum, you know,
Yeah.
in a different forum.
Yeah, sometimes I think we put too much emphasis on standardized
Yes,
ritual.
I would agree with that. I would agree with
Because you
that.
focus too much on the language, the word,
Yeah.
and not the meaning.
Yeah, I was asked a question today, and it was topical today. I had items there. Last Saturday, I was at the 425th anniversary of Lodge Ancient Stirling number 30. And some
400.
425.
425th anniversary. And I was asked the question today, why are they number 30? And I said, well, they're number 30 because when they formed the Grand Lodge of Scotland in 1736, they sent out letters of invitation to all the known lodges at that time. And over 100 lodges came to the meeting or were invited to the meeting. 33 actually came to the meeting. A number of lodges didn't even reply because they looked at it from the point of view of, who are these people? Why are they wanting to form a Grand Lodge? We've been here for over 200 years. And why do we want to form a Grand Lodge, basically? So Ancient Stirling didn't go to the meeting. Ancient Stirling didn't go to the meeting. So that's why they're number 30.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't there at the
Well,
start, basically.
And that's why Wyandotte number 3 became Wyandotte number 3.
Yeah.
They were actually the first lodge,
Yeah.
but they didn't show up at the meeting until late.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I've heard so many variations of that story.
It's basically they showed up late, one way or the other. They got
Oh,
3.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to throw in here, since we're drinking Powers whiskey and I'm a Powers,
Okay.
please, if you're considering us for a sponsorship, don't take Craddock's dumping out of your product
Oh, maybe-
against the show.
No,
we would
that's
still
just-
love to
No,
have it.
there is no
If you're talking about,
purposeful
he-
statement.
well,
being made.
He likes to dump the whiskey to his departed brothers. I think that's what it
Exactly.
is.
yeah, well, I should
It's a
really,
little known.
I should really make a declaration here. You know, if you're talking about sponsorship and one thing, now this is a craftsman's apron
is.
tie.
I
that
was
I've
going to
got on.
stop and say, who all are
And
you
I
wearing
would just
today?
like
to
say-
Jack, what are
Is
you
there-
wearing?
I think everybody has a
I would just like
craftsman's
to
apron
say,
tie.
I'd just like to say that
They're
I
all
don't get any
craftsman's aprons.
commission at all for wearing these craftsman's apron ties,
And
which I quite like.
actually, what's problematic is he could be kicked down to the Grand Lodge of Scotland because he's not wearing a polyester tie.
That's right.
Right.
If you don't wear a polyester tie in Scotland, I think it's verboten.
Well, there is a reason for that, and I've already said what the reason is tonight. If you wear a polyester tie and you you spill Cullen skink over it, you just buy another tie. If you spill Cullen skink over this tie, then it's an
It's a
absolute
tragedy.
disaster.
If,
It's a
if you're,
tragedy.
if you're enjoying your Collins,
You probably
cake
make it
and
into a bow tie.
and it dips into the bowl, it'll actually stick. Versus polyester, you can just pull it straight out. There's no
yeah,
Collins
just
cake.
ring it out and you're going.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or you be my size and wear a bow tie, and that doesn't look right.
But we don't.
Bow ties always look good. So I'm curious. We've got about a little over 5 minutes left here.
Oh, we got all night.
We've got all night. That's true.
Yeah, fair enough.
We're just getting
I mean,
started.
The wait staff in the back singing karaoke back there, so why not? But I'm curious. We did get through a lot of work today, being the official business, and there was, bylaws passed and all that, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the year to come?
So there are a couple of big things that are coming in the future that some of the proposals today had the potential to block, and they did not come about. So there are some bigger things still yet to come. Preservation occurred today. Innovation did not happen, but motivation did occur.
Yeah.
That would be the best way I know how to explain it. So we've got big things for Kansas Masonry still to come. And today was a good springboard for that. If I had to describe it, we laid the foundation.
Did we mention he's a politician?
It's an election year. Just saying.
No, right.
Today we poured the bacon. Nobody will ever see it, but it has to be strong enough to hold the rest of the house.
Yeah.
I actually-
That's what this year-
I actually made that. I
Combination.
actually made that comment earlier on when we were talking.
That
about,
he's a politician?
No, we're actually talking about American politics, and I said, is there no one younger out there? The possible presidents that are coming up. And I said, I think Patrick Craddock would probably make a good US president. Now that we've found out he's 56% Scottish, that would take care of about a quarter of the American population that would vote for him.
Yeah,
Just
that's right.
because he
And
looks like someone on one of our dollar bills does not mean he should serve.
No, no, and he couldn't do any worse than some of the others that are up for election.
He might look like Andrew Jackson, but that doesn't mean
I expect a new Craddock tie design now.
yeah. The Andrew Jackson.
How does the Craftsman's Apron make a tie called the Craddock? And what does that look like?
With great difficulty.
Because if it's your face, I'm lying.
No, no,
No, your favorite tie is still my favorite tie of yours is still one of the first ones you produced. Maybe in the first one you
It
produced.
was the first one.
And I wear it, and it's 20 years old now, isn't it?
No, it's not 20. It's
You're old. It
14.
could be
It's
20.
14 years old.
Well, fair enough.
14, 20.
It still holds up.
Still wearing it in Scotland.
Well, it's so the first tie I ever produced, the signature Craftsman's Apron tie that Stoops is producing or mentioning here. It's just the first of what I tried to do, and you know this.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give the craft what
Tell
it
us
deserves.
tell us what you want.
What I want, spoken in my best Southern dialect.
That's a Scottish dialect.
It's my Southern Scottish dialect. It is that the craft deserves good things.
Yeah.
And that design, and it's a classic design, but it's just I'm not willing to give to the craft garbage. The craft has given me so much more than that. I'm not willing to give anything other than my best back to it.
So if I wanted like a black python skin apron, would you do that?
No.
Okay.
So,
But there's a joke here that I was asked to produce a black python skin Masonic apron, and the question was no, or the answer was no.
one of the things he's not saying, as he modestly explains all this, is that everyone you can see in the camera not only wears these ties, but there's
Underwear too.
probably
Yeah.
not many of us who don't have a case
Braces.
full of aprons that also have his name.
Yeah.
So if a tie is a tie.
I think we're still live.
Oh,
And yeah, see.
So you can delete that last.
I'm in there listening to that.
All right, guys, everyone that's
Technical
watching,
issues.
it just kicked us out, but it looks like we're still live. So throw a
Probably.
comment in there and let us know. We've got a couple minutes left before we wrap up
Probably
here.
US censorship.
Who
Well,
knows?
yeah.
Maybe we didn't sell enough of the auction tonight. I don't know. See.
no, I want to carry on what
Yeah.
Let's see. Are we getting comments?
when he was talking about the things.
Not
that
yet,
I
but it does
produced.
show us live.
And the things that I
Yeah,
have
live.
said here numerous times, and I mean it every time I say it. And I'll say this on the air right now so everyone can hear it. When I was new in business and
Yeah.
no one knew my name and no one knew the Craftsman's Apron, the Grand Lodge of Kansas gave me an opportunity to produce beautiful regalia for them. And it was the first grand jurisdiction that gave me an opportunity as a new company. And I will always support the Grand Lodge of Kansas for giving me that opportunity to do what I can do.
That's beautiful. Well, and while we're on that topic, I think it's only right for those watching that may not be entirely clear what we're talking about. We need a plug of how they can find you and find out more of what we're discussing here.
So come on down to Unpainted Aprons. No, that's
Got our lamb tags.
That's a real website.
The unknown quantity is that they're actually all made in Scotland.
Don't give away my secrets, James. Come on. It's no, the plug is craftsmansapron.com.
Okay.
And It's don't no, I'll misspell it. It's the dyslexic in me, but it's my way of trying to give back to the craft that has given so much to me.
Sure.
I'm nothing without what Masonry has made me into.
But and I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here
Okay.
about my brother Patrick Craddock, because he's very humble.
No.
But what he sometimes doesn't understand is when I go to other jurisdictions, when I go to conferences of Grand Masters, when I meet brothers like Jeremy Barnes and others around the country, right? It's his fault. I blame him, because what he does is he finds brothers with like-minded ideas and brothers who want to advance the craft in a way that's positive and true to the meaning of Masonry. And he builds these friendships. You should meet him. You should meet him. Let me get you connected with him. I need you to talk to him. He thinks like you do. Let's get together and talk about this.
Yeah.
And part of that's because he had the opportunity with his company to meet these people. Absolutely. But
That's great.
he also loves the craft enough to understand that when we get the like-minded people together, great things will happen. And so I call him the snake oil salesman, because he goes from town to town to town and he sells his product. But that's not the biggest part for Masonry. Yes, his stuff is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know how many aprons I own of yours. One more than you think I do, or one less. I don't know which. Anyway, that's not the best part of what he's done for Masonry, in my opinion. He gives us great regalia.
Yeah.
He gives us great ties. He promotes Masonry in a different way, though, because when I meet these other brothers who are like-minded and we start talking about things, all of a sudden it's not just Kansas that benefits from it, because Patrick hooked me up with this other brother from Oregon, and now I'm talking to this other brother from Oregon, and those ideas get shared.
Yeah.
Because he knows the like-minded individuals who have the chance to advance the craft. And without him, those connections don't get made sometimes. He's a bumblebee. Yeah, well, he's a honeybee. He's a honeybee. He's not a drone within the hive.
Probably one of the best examples I have of that is when I was Grandmaster, I had the opportunity to go over for the 300th anniversary of the UGL.
Yeah.
And Pat has talked about this, that there's a photo of every sitting Grandmaster at that time, and I'm the only Grandmaster at that point who's wearing his regalia. What he probably doesn't know is, while we're getting ready for that photo, the Grandmaster of Cuba came up to me and said, "I love your collar, I love your apron," and we opened a battle.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a sheriff in Western Kansas full time, so
Sure.
I'm as right wing.
He's running for election this year. If you're in Graham County, please vote for Cole.
And I'm as right wing as they come.
Sure.
And I've established a relationship with someone from Cuba, of all places. And what started that? The regalia.
Tell them about
Wow.
the relationship you have with the Grand Masters in the Grand Masters room in Kansas and in Scotland.
So
And we're talking about the Queen, the
that
late
very,
Queen.
that very same trip,
She's deaf.
prior to going to London, because before we got to London, someone at the other end of this camera photo found out that I was coming over and said, "Hey, don't you think you should come visit where Freemasonry actually started before you go out in London?"
And then he was going to wear his 300-year anniversary jewel for the UGLE, and we said, "Don't wear that."
Yeah. So I said, "Okay, that makes sense." So Jim takes me as the sitting Grandmaster to go visit the Grand Lodge of Scotland. It was just a regular communication at that point, but we go have the meal. The Grandmaster invited me into his office to get ready. Well, what I didn't realize, I thought I was walking in there, putting on my apron and walking out. What I
Right.
didn't realize was all the past Grandmasters of Scotland also do that. And many of them are aristocracy. I'm putting on my apron, listening to these guys complain about having to memorize a toast that they're about to give before the Queen, and complaining that they're having difficulty memorizing it. And listening to another past Grandmaster go, "Just say what you want. Queenie's deaf."
And so she is.
Point was like, these men know her.
Sure.
I live and work in a county that's 900 square miles, has 2,500 people, and these are people talking about the fact
These
they
are
know the
people
Queen
that
of England.
own a county that size.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. It was the mindset of the same kind of people that people like Pat subscribe to that allowed me to go in, because I was not the only grandmaster at that communication, but I was the only grandmaster allowed to go in that office.
Interesting.
And demeanor, I think, matters with it.
Yeah.
We can be proud of what we've accomplished, but we can't be proud of who we are in the moment, because that moment doesn't exist.
Sure.
Nice.
So we are a little over an hour here. Before we get to our final toast, I do want to go around for some final words. I would like each of you to give me a short understanding of how you think we can benefit the future of Masonry as the history of tomorrow, right? We look at Freemasonry with such a powerful history, and we are in it right now, which is going to be that history that those after us look back on. So what is some advice you can offer that you think will firmly set us down the right path? If we could start with you, Cole.
So the best way I know how to describe that shortly is to say that today we made a significant effort at rebuilding the foundation of who we are. People after us will build the edifice, but we were underground building the stem walls of what needs to become. And my hope is that everyone that comes after us builds on that solid foundation that was established.
Love it. Credit.
I'm going to speak from a guy who's never going to be a Grand Lodge officer.
Go for it.
Be the best craft Mason you can be, because that is the foundation that all Masonry is built on.
Yeah. Love it. Stoops.
So 50 years from now,
I'll
if they
be
look
dead.
back on this, if you're still doing the same thing we're doing now, you're doing it wrong. Why? Because it has to progress.
Amen.
Yes.
So we're doing what we can do now that we think's the right thing for now.
Yeah.
It won't be the right thing then.
Sure.
We don't always do it the same way. You shouldn't always do it the same way. Progress, make it relevant. It always has to be relevant.
Yeah.
If it's not relevant, it will die.
You got to tie in?
Yes. I'm going to clarify. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is
What he wants to say.
Jim Jack's wearing one of my ties.
That Stoops was talking about if you're doing it 50 years from now, just like we've done it for 50 years, it's wrong. The way you do something needs to change. The
Yeah.
tenets of Masonry
Oh, absolutely.
do not
No,
change.
Yeah.
But the way
Yes.
you manage it, you administrate it, you conduct it, you present it,
It has to be relevant.
always changes.
Go ahead, brother.
Well, I'm going to bring it down a level, right? And I think that
On the level?
the most important thing, one of the most important things about Freemasonry is you must enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely.
You must enjoy the friendship. You must enjoy the fellowship. It doesn't matter who you're with. Past Grand Masters from Kansas. You need to enjoy it. You need to laugh. You need to joke.
Yes.
You need to hug one another if you need hugged.
Tell a
And-
brother you love him if you want to.
Well, don't go that far.
As long as he's not wearing the Fruit Loop suit.
Well, but I think you just need to. I think you just need to enjoy your Freemasonry and enjoy it.
Yeah.
This November, I'll have been a Freemason for 50 years, and when I look back on the
I
50
was 3
years,
when he joined.
the 50 years that I've been a Freemason, my mother-in-law St. Bride has changed drastically in that 50 years, and I think listening to Stoops and perhaps Craddock say, where will we be in 50 years' time? Well, I can look back the way and say, well, where were we 50 years ago?
Right.
And I see huge differences in my lodge and our Masonic Hall, which this year celebrates its centenary, 100 years. And when I think about that, 100 years of that temple being there, I've been in that hall for 50 years.
You've
of
been
its
there half the
100
time.
half that time.
Yeah.
And it's changed dramatically. Even
Yeah.
the hall has changed that dramatically.
Yeah.
So Stoops is correct. We need to change. But one thing we never change, and I don't think we should ever change, and that's the enjoyment we get out of
Oh, I
Freemasonry.
agree. Here, here.
We need to enjoy ourselves, and we have enjoyed ourselves. I enjoy these guys' company, and I enjoy the company of the Freemasons in Kansas, and that needs to be perhaps one of the key elements of Freemasonry for the future. One thing about the Grand Lodge of Kansas that always sticks with me is Kansas Freemasons on the level. That is a brilliant slogan, and that's the way it should be. Freemasons, no matter whether you're meeting Grand Masters from Scotland who have spoken to the Queen yesterday, or, you know, Grand Masters from Kansas who have joined a small lodge in Scotland, 579, Patrick Craddock, who's been to Scotland and seen all the sites, you know, in Scotland concerning Freemasonry and other things, always on the level. We meet one another. We're no better than anyone else. The guys in Kansas are no better than the guys from Scotland, and that's the way it should be.
Every time.
Fantastic.
Here, here.
Yep.
For my closing words, I would say
That's right. It means a lot.
That means a lot.
Closing words are, have you tasted a Bruce Smokies?
no.
Oh, well.
Did you bring some?
No, we
No.
can't get them through the customs.
No.
So I would say live Freemasonry,
Yes.
and not just to Masons. I can say firsthand that I've seen Masons be very Masonic with other Masons, and then when you see them outside of Masonry in life, oddly, it's outside of Masonry, and it shouldn't be, because
We call
you're
those
still a
people
Mason.
Sometimes we call them Catholic too. I mean, I don't know.
But I think it's a healthy
Pick your
reminder.
religion, right?
I think it's a healthy reminder to really contemplate and examine your actions day to day. If the way you're living, if the way you're going about something, if the way you're conversing with somebody is truly Masonic. One quick example I can give on social media, and it's a debatable one that causes a lot of riff. Female Masons, guys.
Come on now.
Quit
touching the third rail.
Well, here's
Third
the
rail warning.
Here's the thing, though.
No.
Here's the thing, though.
Go to ask your
In
question.
most cases,
They're better
they're not
Masons than I am.
Yeah, but they're not beating down your door, and they make a simple
I
comment.
saw it is.
And I've seen past Grand Masters of jurisdictions literally come out with some of the most belligerent,
That's ridiculous.
regrettable things said online, and it's not Masonic.
No.
We can still,
Agreed.
if you don't agree with somebody, even in that capacity, I think we can still strive to be a good Mason, a good human being, and rise to the occasion. So in all occasions, live Freemasonry.
Well, I think one of the
Final
things we say here is an ideal Masonic experience.
Yes.
What is an ideal Masonic experience? Well, what's a Masonic experience?
Probably both.
Well, it was. It absolutely was. It was a great Masonic experience. But as a Mason, everything you do should be a Masonic experience.
Yeah.
So it should be ideal.
I agree.
And if it's less than that, you did it wrong.
I agree.
Try again.
One of the things that was nice tonight was because you kept pointing the label that followed the rack. We did no ad reads.
We didn't.
Oh, we did. Should there be a final toast?
There
Yes,
is.
they
I mean,
should.
if you've got one, we'll do it. But
Since
Oh,
since you threw it out there, Craddock, will you propose a final toast for us this evening?
yeah, sure. So,
I could give you a toast.
James, I will defer to James Jack.
you have to.
Now, this is a toast you need to listen to, because I've never given this toast before,
Ooh.
right? A toast to the best years of our lives spent in the arms of other men's wives and mothers.
You should never give that one again.
Did you get that toast correctly? Was that the correct toast again?
I'm trying to drink that.
I'm not sure.
No, he
He
said it right. You have to think about it. It is correct. Nope, that's
But
right.
in the moment, it brought me back to
I do love my mom.
a table lodge in Kansas a few years ago where we
She
were
was 7
toasting
years
to the women.
old.
You guys remember this a few years ago? We had Table Lodge in Kansas. We were trying to acknowledge the women, and we made a toast to the ladies of the night.
The ladies of the evening.
The ladies of the evening.
Oh no, we have to tell the story now. All right.
All right,
so,
we'll wrap it up with the story.
Yeah, this is the final story for tonight. There was a Table Lodge event, a combined event, Prince Hall, Kansas, Grand Lodge of Kansas, AF and AM, and we
Like
did a
2
joint
weeks
table lodge.
before we went to London.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and so it was. And I was not there, but the story got everywhere. And so the two Grand Masters got together. Cole may have been one of them. And they decided that there were no guests that night because they were all brothers of equal level, Prince Hall and AF and AM. So there were no guests. So the toast that had the word guests in it, the word guest would be stricken from the toast, which unfortunately left the toast to be, it was supposed to be to the guests and ladies. No, the ladies and guests of the evening. And when you strike guests out and it just becomes the toast to the ladies of the evening. I think that was the junior past Grand Master of Prince Hall that gave that to so.
He proudly stood
Yes, he did. Yes,
at
he
the end of
did.
that table and said, "Most worshipful, I propose a toast
It's
to
the ladies of the evening.
And every
So-
one of us went.
Ooh, that's fantastic.
To the ladies of the evening.
Second toast, the ladies of the evening.
It was-
Or be our wives.
Well, brothers, thank you so much for joining in. Brothers, thank you so much for joining in.
That's some history right there.
It is. But heading out live.
on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heading out live from the Grand Lodge of Kansas annual communication. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us. And until next
This is
time,
as long as I've ever sat with you.
yeah. Until next time, keep preserving the history
It's
of
only because you're
Freemasonry.
sitting in the middle.
Have a great night.